Let's bring in Joel Griffith. He's a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. And Joel, that's really the biggest financial stimulus package the U.S. has ever seen. What do you love about it?
What do I love of it? That's a strong word. There's pieces of it that
what do you like about it?
Let's put it that way. Look, there's a few parts in here that will be a benefit to the public that have been done right. One of these is actually allowing businesses to take their losses for this quarter and for next quarter and roll those losses back to get a tax refund on prior taxes paid. That's a positive. But some of these other components I'm quite troubled by, including the unemployment component. You know, at the Heritage Foundation, we have been advocating to give employers tax credits to pay out wages to employees that would otherwise be laid off. We think that's very important. But this did something else. It went ahead and through the unemployment insurance program is going to allow people who become unemployed to take about nearly 100% of their prior salary by way of unemployment benefits. Well, we think this is actually going to kind of nudge people, push people away from the workforce and into the unemployment lines because it allows them to stay on there for several months. We'd rather people stay with their employer, keep them attached to that employment situation, even if they're not working. And that way, when we're able to get ramped back up, they've got their job waiting for them.
You've said a couple of times that these stimulus bills, this bill in particular, needs to be temporary and it needs to be targeted. Do you think it at least achieves that portion?
There are portions of it that are temporary and targeted. So when we're talking about helping people who are unemployed, small businesses, there's a small business SBA loan component that gets loans to businesses for payroll, utilities, and mortgages. That's temporary and targeted, lasts to the ends of the year. But then you have other components that funnel hundreds of billions of dollars to special interest and special sectors such as airlines and airline cargo that end up being handouts, end up being grants to these companies. That's not right, and that's certainly not targeted.
I want to play you Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said about this, and I'll get your response on the other side.
First, let me say I would like to thank Mitch McConnell for his leadership, and I'd also like to thank Chuck Schumer for the enormous bipartisan support we had on this bill, and the many senators, both Republicans and Democrats, that worked tirelessly over the last 5 days on all the task force. As the president said, I got to live in the LBJ room for the last 5 days, and we couldn't be more pleased with the unprecedented response from the Senate to protect American workers and American business.
I mean, really, Republicans and Democrats, if we weren't social distancing on this, Joel, there'd have been high fives all around, right?
There would be high fives all around. That's not often a sign of what we want to see coming out of D.C. We talk a lot about bipartisanship. I think this is another example of when we have bipartisanship in the form of unanimity, we've actually gone awry. We're talking $2 trillion. Congress could have focused on helping out small business. Businesses are being forced to close by local governments. We could have been focused on helping them. We could have been focused on helping those that are unemployed or that threaten being unemployed. Instead, they tried to do both of those things, but then they also basically broke the bank with the bailouts and then sending $1,000 and $2,000 checks across the country almost indiscriminately. Right. That's in error.
For contrarians, you think, Joel, I mean, it's one of those things where I know there's a lot of pork in this bill. I mean, it's Congress after all. But do you think at some point in this kind of crisis that we have to just hold our nose and say, OK, let's do it?
Well, that's definitely a determination that many senators made, and perhaps they're right. We know that in the House was actually saying, no, we want even more. And if you listen to Governor Cuomo yesterday, Governor of New York, he was saying this did not go far enough. He wants even more money funneled over to the states for spending. Is $2 trillion the best Congress could do, including bailing out many special interests? Perhaps in our state of political affairs, it is, and that's sad.
Yeah. Well, the question, as you bring up a good point, how long does it last? I mean, they're going to go down this road again. The question becomes the next time they go down this road, Joel, there's going to be a lot of people saying, look, we need to open the economy. I mean, now they're saying, OK, we're fine. We're going to shelter in place. But next time they bring this up, there's going to be a big opposition that says we need to reopen this country. Your thoughts about 35 seconds?
Yeah, we can go ahead and help people out temporarily by borrowing money or printing money. But the way to get this economy back on track is to allow people to actually go back to work and open up their businesses. That's what people want and need. And I hope we can do that in a safe manner as soon as possible.
Yeah, and lastly, that we talked about the Dow futures down. Are you surprised with all this deal talk that the Dow futures are down tomorrow? The market across the board down?
I'm not too surprised. I think that's really a sell the news situation. We saw the market rally 2,500 points in 2 days, as you mentioned. I think now the market is trying to figure out just how severe the impact would be for particular companies and industries in the coming month and a half. We know that there's going to be a sharp, hopefully very short contraction.